Welcome to Silent Screams. Tonight, we'll take you on a journey through true Thanksgiving horror stories that will leave you questioning the safety of even the most cherished traditions. Sit back and let the darkness of the season unfold. Thanksgiving was never supposed to be like this. For me, it was always about family, the smell of roasted turkey, and the comforting warmth of a home filled with laughter. This year, though, the silence was deafening. It began on the drive to my grandmother's house. The sky was unnaturally gray, and the bare trees lining the highway looked like skeletal fingers stretching into the clouds. I tried to shake the feeling of unease, chalking it up to exhaustion from the long week. My younger sister, Abby, was sitting beside me in the car, humming softly to herself, her finger tracing invisible patterns on the frosted window. "Do you think Grandma's house will feel weird?" she asked suddenly, breaking the silence. I turned to her, confused. "What do you mean, weird?" "I don't know," she said, shrugging. "It just feels different this year." I didn't respond, but her words stuck with me. When we pulled into Grandma's driveway, the house seemed darker than usual. The shutters closed tightly, as if trying to block out something. The porch light flickered weakly, casting long, shifting shadows across the yard. Inside, the atmosphere was no better. Grandma greeted us at the door with her usual warm smile, but her eyes seemed distant, as if her mind was elsewhere. The dining room table was already set, and the smell of turkey filled the house, but there was something off. The air felt heavy, suffocating, like the house itself was holding its breath. As the family gathered around the table, we noticed something strange. There was an extra plate. It was set at the far end of the table, perfectly arranged with silverware and a wine glass, but no one sat there. "Grandma, who's the extra plate for?" I asked hesitantly. Her smile faltered, just for a moment. "Oh, don't worry about that, dear. It's just tradition. Tradition." That word echoed in my mind as we began to eat. Conversation was sparse, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Abby kept glancing toward the empty chair, her face pale. I reached over to squeeze her hand, but she pulled away, her eyes wide with fear. "Did you see that?" she whispered, barely audible. "See what?" I asked, my stomach tightening. She pointed toward the empty chair. Someone was sitting there. I swear I saw them. My blood ran cold. I looked at the chair, but it was empty, just as it had been the entire meal. Or was it? For a split second, I thought I saw the faintest outline of a figure, like a heat wave in the air. I blinked, and it was gone. Grandma's voice broke through the tension. "Let's all say what we're thankful for." Everyone went around the table, their voices hollow and rehearsed. When it was Abby's turn, she didn't speak. Instead, she stared at the empty chair, her lips trembling. "I think we should go," she said suddenly, standing up. "Sit down," Grandma said sharply, her tone cold and unfamiliar. Abby froze, her eyes filling with tears. "No one leaves until we finish dinner." The room fell silent. The only sound was the faint creak of the floorboards, as though someone unseen was walking around us. I glanced at the empty plate again, and my heart skipped a beat. The silverware had moved. The fork was now slightly crooked, as if someone had been using it. Abby grabbed my arm under the table, her nails digging into my skin. "We're not alone," she whispered, her voice shaking. Then the lights flickered. For a moment, the room was plunged into darkness. When the lights came back on, the chair at the end of the table was no longer empty. A man was sitting there. His face was pale and gaunt, his eyes sunken and hollow. He was dressed in old-fashioned clothes, a faint smell of decay wafting from him. No one else reacted. Grandma continued eating as though nothing had happened, her gaze fixed on her plate. My parents stared at their food, silent and unmoving. Who are you?" I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. The man turned to me, his lips curling into a chilling smile. "I've always been here," he said, his voice low and gravelly. "This is my seat." Abby screamed, and the lights flickered again. This time, they didn't come back on. The room was plunged into darkness, the only sound the clattering of silverware and the scraping of chairs as someone or something moved around us. I grabbed Abby's hand and stood up, my heart racing. "We need to leave," I said, pulling her toward the door. But the door wouldn't budge. It was as though it had been sealed shut. "Sit down," Grandma's voice called out from the darkness, her tone ice cold. "Dinner isn't over yet."